Morning, everybody. Welcome back to personal security, in the third and final section of personal security, which is executive protection. Woohoo! Yes. Get the boring stuff out of the way. All right. Just a little bit of admin news first. I finally got the website fixed. Excuse me. Not that. Ta-da. And I'll have Stefan email the link to it. Now you'll notice there's a user login here. Totally ignore it. Just click on the tab you want and the videos will pop up. Ta-da. I'll have 3 more videos uploaded this evening, so that's where we're at. All right, moving into executive protection. As soon as my computer wakes up. All right. One of the key problems facing protection professionals is protecting people who don't believe they need protection. Key business persons have become big targets for kidnapping, extortion, assassinations, bombings, sabotage. In the civilian world, not so much assassinations, bombing, and stuff like that because they'd like to get their money out of them. These are generally criminal acts that use these vehicles to obtain money, influence business or government decisions, or develop public recognition for their organization or cause. That's the public recognition and for their cause is pretty much a terrorist gig. They don't care if the guy lives or dies. They generally don't care about money, but they want people to fear them and or support them. That's their goals. Now we got to protect the people that don't realize they need protection. This is a good case history for you here. It's about a bank robbery in Ireland and how they pulled it off. This was an incident where 2 homes were invaded by people dressed as police officers in Northern Ireland. They held the principal's families hostage and forced the principals, the assistant manager here, I think, and the head teller, they held their families hostage and made these 2 people go to the bank and pull out all the money. This is pretty much a standard operating procedure in most third world countries. And if you listen to the news reports along our southwest border, it's happening more and more frequently. So, little case history there for y'all to look at. Okay. Prevention and defense are common elements to mitigate terrorist act and risk to potential targets. Okay. There are certain efforts you can take to thwart or reduce these attacks. And we'll get into this. One of the things that these criminals and terrorists have to do is they have to identify probable targets and venues of attack. They need to develop a plan, and they need to gather intelligence. This is called the terrorist planning cycle. And there are 7 stages to this cycle. There's broad target selection. Now, when we talk about broad target selection, they're looking at every possible target they can think about going after, okay? And they look at them. Okay, which one is a high-value target? Which one's going to get us the most money or the most news or something like that? And they narrow their target selection list down. And then they look at who's the best protected, who's the least protected. And they do intelligence and surveillance on them. And they gather the strengths and weaknesses of their protection details, how they move around, where they're going, where they're most vulnerable at, and who can make them vulnerable. What person in their family or a circle of friends can be a weakness for them. Then they do a specific target selection. This is the person that they're going to go after. They've analyzed his movements. They've seen how he operates. They know where he lives. They know where he works. They know he pulls into the same parking spot every morning because there's this big sign, big boss man's parking spot. Nobody park here. Then they begin their pre-attack surveillance to see if there's any idiosyncrasies in his movements, or is he increasing his security detail, as whatever. They do their pre-attack. Then they actually go through, once they've selected the target, they selected the site where they're going to do the attack, they do an attack rehearsal, okay? And then they actually perform the attack. This is what they're going to do. They're going to go in, make a snatch, grab the objective at the location they've selected, and they put step number 7 into play, which is their escape, and then their exploitation. They're going to either ask for money, they're going to make demands for prisoner release, they're going to notify the news media, whatever their end game is for the attack. There are 2 places you can interrupt the terrorist threat cycle. During their intelligence gathering and surveillance. This is going to require your security details, your principal, to be very familiar with counter surveillance. Now, we've all had some counter surveillance training either in the military or in our current jobs. So, but your principal as well as your security detail need to be up to speed on counter surveillance. The other time you can interrupt it is during their pre-attack surveillance. Then you know that your target, your principal has been identified as the target. The other thing is you need to conduct risk and threat assessments on the principal, the person you're protecting, on a continuous basis. And this information must be updated as often as possible. I'm talking weekly, not monthly, weekly. Are you receiving threatening notes? Are you getting telephonic threats? These things need to be investigated. You need to keep a file on them. If your principal is in Los Angeles and he's traveling to Las Vegas, you need to pull from your file every nut that has sent you a note from a 60-mile radius around Las Vegas. And then you need to go through those. You need to develop your protection plan for those. You need to talk to the local police department. Hey, this nut sent this note, and we're going to be in your area. What do you know about it? You want to gather more intelligence. Okay? And you need to make sure you brief your principal in on the protection and the threats that he's going to have to put up with while he's in Las Vegas. Okay? You need to get his buy-in. To respond to a terrorist, an executive protection program should be developed with an emphasis on crisis management plan and the team. The primary objective of this is to reduce vulnerabilities and develop contingencies. The crisis management plan may entail threat assessments, countermeasures, policies, procedures, protocols, lines of authority, and the responsibility for control in the event of an attack. Okay, the minute your principal is attacked, he stops being the boss. He is the package. He has no authority over how you respond to the attack. Whoever is going to be responsible for the security detail takes automatic charge. Okay? Also, some countermeasures can include like buying kidnapping insurance, you know, a $5 million policy. The insurance company pays it off, you get your guy back. You should have policies on what happens if your principal is kidnapped, okay? Do we negotiate? Do we pay the ransom? You know, these are the policies you need to develop in advance if you screw up and he gets taken. You need to have your procedures in place. You're going to send your advance team, do the scout, work with the local police department. They're going to work with the venue he's going to be at, things of this nature. And you need to have lines of authority. Okay. In the event that the very top guy you're protecting is kidnapped, who does the company's business decisions fall to next? This is the lines of authority. Remember earlier in our emergency planning, at the very first week, we talked about boards of directors having authority. You need to know who you can go to and get decisions made. So that's part of your executive protection plan. Okay, there are 6 things you need to know about an executive protection plan. Executive protection requires risk assessment, cost-benefit analysis, some old-fashioned legwork. Here are the 6. You don't have to write them down because these slides were sent out to you, but these are the 6 fundamental things you need to know. Ask questions early and often. You need to identify the individuals who are critical to your organization. You need to know who your principal is going to be. You need to assess the impact on your company if they are lost, and you need to examine the risk each of those people faces. Okay, and you need to, every one of them has to have their own executive protection plan, okay, that's tailored for them and their movements. You need to know if there's any history of threats against these individuals. Keep a file. Do they travel regularly to dangerous places? You know, what kind of crimes or dangerous situations are they most vulnerable to? If you've got a guy that likes hanging out with hookers when he's on travel, you need to have a contingency plan because that's a weakness, okay? And then sometimes you actually look out and you get an executive that likes to keep a low profile, works with you. Others, like Donald Trump and Richard Branson, you've got to come up with a plan to meet their personality, okay? And you've got to put them in a box, and it's got to be a box they're comfortable with. If they're not comfortable with the box, they're not going to cooperate with you. Okay? You got to keep them on the down low while they're still out there waving to the fans. Okay? Number 2, ditch the bouncer. Okay? The term executive protection professional should tell you there's a difference between what you see in the posse showing up at all these disco joints with all the celebs. No neck goons in black turtlenecks. We've seen them. They're fine if you go into a dance club or something like that, but you want an effective executive protection professional to be working on your details. There are several organizations out there that do train executive protections. I'm not going to talk about which ones are better than the others. So there's a difference between a bodyguard and a protection professional. One specializes in muscles and has a gun. The other may be less physically imposing, but it's better to prepare to identify threats before they materialize. This is the guy that does his risk assessments, threat assessments, has a plan in advance. He's watching the crowd. He's not sitting there pushing through the crowd, okay? Make the protection detail seem like a perk. Some people come into the protection business imagining they'll be like Clint Eastwood, shoot everybody. No, that's not what you want. Let them know that this is part of the perks they have as being the protectee. They get around-the-clock personal service, they get watched after, and they get their needs taken care of. They go out, they do their job, they come back safe and sound. It's a good day for everybody, okay? You work with them, find out what their sell points are, and sell them on the executive protection. You've got to get them on board. You've got to have their buy-in, okay? And they've got to go through the training with you. Whenever you say, hey, if something happens, this is what you are responsible for doing. Ducking, getting ready to get your butt grabbed and your collar grabbed and shoved through a small door opening with 2 guys piling on top of you. But we will respect you in the morning afterwards. So you got to get their buy-in, okay? This is probably the hardest thing we have to do is whenever we're going to the protectee or the principal and telling him he needs to have a security detail, he's going to want to fight you tooth and toenail. You need to talk in terms he understands, like, hey, cost-benefit analysis, return on investment, speak his language. If you get kidnapped, the company's going to lose X amount of dollars to buy you back. We're going to lose your time, and it's going to cost more than you complying with the executive protection. Whatever spins him up and makes him happy, that's the way you need to talk to him. You can't let him push you away. Or her nowadays, really. A lot of these ladies out there think they're Margaret Thatcher. So good luck with that. This is probably my favorite part right here, and probably the most important. Have a good Rolodex. It could just be your contacts in your email. Good information is the lifeblood of any executive protection program. It pays to work closely with executive assistants who do your bosses or your principal's travel planning. Hotel personnel, get to know them. If your boss likes staying at the Westin in Los Angeles, you need to know the manager. You need to know the head of housekeeping. You need to know everybody. They should be on your quick call list. If you use event organizers, you need to know which ones the boss prefers and get with them. Make sure that if they have any personnel turnover, you do your background check on the new people coming in. You really want to know who these people are. You need to work your network. You need to work with the local police departments, get the local crime reports, get the local terrorist activity, threat levels, and you need to pick up the phone, call the other security professionals in your network, the guys that you know, the guys and gals that you know. That's what I do, okay? And whenever you have multiple executive protection teams all at the same event, be a good time to exchange information with the other professionals. Ta-da. A lot of times we focus on the principal and we forget about the other important people that can have an impact on our principal's life. Don't forget the spouse and kids, okay? Now, part of your handout material I sent out last week has the full discussion on this. I pulled this from, I forget her name, but she wrote a very good article. I pulled this up, and I've included this here. Remember, these are 6 good foundation tips for any executive protection program. Any questions on these 6 tips? Excellent. Moving along. In the planning stages of your executive protection program, they're separated into 2 areas. There's a contingency event. This is a potential act. What are we going to do for terrorism, kidnapping, assassination, and things like this? And we develop our contingency plans for that. If those plans fail, we move into the second activity, which is crisis response. Okay, who's going to handle what? We're going to call the board together. We're going to make a decision on calling in the insurance company. We're going to pay the ransom or whatever it is we're going to do. Okay. In both of these, the focus of the planning should include a threat assessment. Even though your principal has already been taken, you need to reevaluate the threat assessment if for no other reason than lessons learned. How did we let this one slip through? You need to be able to talk about your resource allocation. Okay, who's going to handle safety? Who's going to handle EMT? Who's going to handle the media? Who's going to handle calling the insurance brokers? Whatever. And then you have to do your education and training. Remember, we were talking about counter surveillance training. There's other training you can get your principal involved with to make him think it's a perk. Hey, we're going to teach you defensive driving, so whenever you blow us off and drive your own car to the golf course, you can at least try to get away from the bad guys. That's fun, and it's always a perk if you can get them to buy off on it. Okay? All right. 4 essential elements in the preliminary planning. All executive protection officers should have have a thorough understanding of planning an executive protection operation. All protective tasks have a number of elements, and these are full knowledge of the executive under protection. You have to know everything there is to know about this. You need to know his medical history, personal interests, what restaurants he goes to, what clubs, what his social interests are. This helps you plan ahead so that there are fewer spur-of-the-moment side trips to the opera. Okay, if you know there's an opera coming to town, your principal is really interested in this opera, you can start pre-scouting the opera house. You need to conduct a threat assessment. What is the personal threat to the executive and from whom? Okay. executive protection includes him being photographed at 2 o'clock in the morning running around in the skivvies downtown New York, higher than a kite. You need to protect him from that. Okay. Issues that motivate groups or individuals. There was, well, everybody remembers Unabomber. We're not sure what really motivated him. He just liked blowing things up. But if you're talking about things like Al-Qaeda, they're pro-Islamic fundamentalist. If you're talking about Sendero Luminoso, they're communist. If you're talking about the no taxers, they want chaos, period. You need to review the itinerary. Okay. Whenever you're reviewing an itinerary, and you need to note this down, okay, not only where you're going, how long you're going to be there, who you're meeting with, how many locations you're going to be meeting at, how are we going to get from point A to point B, okay, how long are we going to be there? You need to know the itinerary down cold. If you're having special events, you need to know who's being invited. You need to do the guest list thing. You need to do your background investigation on them. The whole 9 yards. Once you have this, you can do your resource allocation. What size is the team? What are our transportation options? Are we going to be doing technical or electronic surveillance? Are we going to have to sweep meeting rooms? Do we have the means to sweep meeting rooms? What's the level of security we need for these meetings? The best way to win a fight is to avoid one. Okay? The best security program is one that is absolutely so good it is never needed. Any disagreement on that? The whole idea behind these people is they want to achieve their objective. They want to either kidnap, kill, or blow up your principal. If it's too hard to do your principal, they will go down the street. They want to achieve their goals. They want to get the money. They want to get the media attention. They want to get a change in government. Whatever it is their end game is, that's what they want to achieve. If you're too hard to achieve that, then they will walk down the street. So we're actually avoiding the fight. You need to do your detailed planning process. You need to reduce your threat envelope by closely controlling where your principal goes, who he sees, and things of this nature. You don't want him out on playing 18 holes of golf on a public golf course with no security detail. And we talked earlier in this course about route planning. You should have a minimum of 3 routes planned to every venue he's going to. 5 is better, okay? You want to send your advanced team in. They want to survey each route and report back on each route an hour prior to you actually selecting a route and moving down it. You should do it the day before. You should do it just before the principal moves down a route. You should select a random route out of the 5 and move on. Everybody remembers the fiasco in Iraq with Black Hawk. They got in that big shootout only because they did not do the advanced route. Nobody on the team knew there was construction going on. They freaked out, and it was a mess. This is why you have to do the day before, check the route, do it before your principal moves so you can see if anything's changed, and then select your route and move down it. I hit on that all the time, and I apologize for repeating myself. Whenever you go into an event, who is organizing the event? Is it private or is it a public event? What security arrangements do they have? Will they intermesh with yours? Is there going to be any media interest there? I don't know what IMG means. I was obviously still taking drugs when I wrote that. Okay, moving on. The venue. Is it going to be in a residence, a workplace, or a special event venue? Is it going to be at the opera house? Is it going to be in a warehouse? You need to know this. You need to know the layout. You need to know the access to it. You need to know the ingress and the escape paths. Okay. Whenever you're setting this up, you also need to add to your list of must-knows nearest law enforcement facility, nearest hospital, nearest safe house. You want to set up a safe house. The reason you want to know this is if you get hit, you need to know where to run. If your principal is injured, you need to know where to take him. And you need to get a team in each of those places prior to the event so that you can scope them out. If it's a hospital, you need to touch base with the hospital security staff. If it's the police station, you need to touch base with the senior leadership there so that you know you have a bolt hold, okay? Then you need to do, once your reconnaissance is done and all the data collected, the team compiles a detailed planning reports on all aspects of the security operations. You know where you're going, you know how you're getting there, you know who's going to be there, you know where to go in case of an emergency, and you have your back out plan. We're going to take him home to his family now. These are all part of the executive protection plan. Okay. Every element of an executive security operation is compiled into a security report, sometimes referred to as operational orders. Each team leader is in charge of each element, and they compile their own. If you have an advanced team leader, he's going to go there. He's going to look at the venue. He's already got the itinerary. He knows who we're meeting with. He's already starting to lay out movement paths for all the visits we're going to be doing while we're in the area. And he's going to be touching base with the hotel, the hospital, the police station, and all these other things. He's going to write his part of the report. He's going to have the senior detail leader who's going to be with the protection guy. He knows how I'm going to get him to the airport. He's going to get on this flight. He's going to be on whatever. We're going to be arriving at this time. We've had the advanced team waiting with our vehicles. We're going to pile them in, and we're going to go straight there. So that's part of his report. Once all the reports or operational orders are written, they're compiled into one executive operational order, and then the senior person gives it a quality assurance and puts a stamp of approval on the plan. Do not forget that part of this is you have to brief the principal on the plan and all the contingencies of the plan. He has to have buy-in. He or she has to have buy-in. And they have to know that when something hits the fan, you guys are there to be the screens. Okay, let me see if I can pull this up. This is a video clip of the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan. I would like you to watch all of it, but whenever you hear the shots in one portion of this clip, I want you to look at his security detail and how they react. You will notice that two of them immediately move towards the sound of the weapons fire. The one behind him grabs him, shoves him down, and literally grabs him by the collar and heads him towards the limousine. So watch this real quick. See him? The security guys are on the bottom.
Royce, we got a little bit of a delay, and there's no sound associated with it, but it is playing.
Excellent. Did everybody see that?
No, it's kind of grainy. I'll look at it tonight.
Okay. I just wanted to show how his detail responded. You have two that went right towards the sound of the shots, and they were the bottom two on that pile there on Hinckley. And then the one behind him grabbed him and got him into the vehicle. But it also, I forgot about that part. Hold on. I got a little feedback here. All right. But that's what happens whenever you have an excellent protection detail. Okay? This, if there's no questions, this concludes the personal security domain. We are down to our last 3 or 4 domains, and starting on Friday, we will move into physical security, which comprises 25% of the exam. It's going to be a long section, and I will try to have those out to Stefan tomorrow for the first class on Friday. Any questions?
Negatory.
Okay. In that case, thank you very much, people. Have a great day.
All right, thanks.